Okay. Good morning. My name is Samantha Mirbaum with Mocha's application team. We're doing our design shop talk today. Is my audio working? It looks like it is. Okay. Sorry. We're doing our design shop talk today to see what questions you might have, try to get them answered. I only had a few sent in ahead of time, and one of them I don't actually understand. So if you have questions, type in the comments or in the chat. Don't send it privately. I will not see those. So thanks for joining today. It's a holiday. I know a lot of folks aren't working today. So, oh, and I didn't change that to Friday. Oh well, the date's right. Actually, I'm going to update it because everyone they look at these later and then want to know. They get confused. There we go. All right. So back to this. All right. Now we're good. Anyway, good morning again. So I'm going to start off with the questions that were sent in ahead of time, and then we will just go from there. Like I said, if you have questions while we're live, just type them in on the chat, and I'll try to make sure I get them covered. All right, so any advice on getting a perfect circle to puff without warping and turning into an oval, for example? All right, so I assume you mean this guy right here. To have, good morning, Rose, thanks for joining. To how the circle tends to narrow up in the direction of the sewing. Okay, so there's a few things we can do to help that situation. One is part of it is going to be just understanding why it's happening, because when you understand why it's happening, then you can try different things to kind of correct the issue, if you will. So let me go grab a file, not that, Dropbox, Mocha. There we go. Today's date. And there's my little puff circle. Cool. All right. Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for joining. So first thing to understand about why circles in general. So I'm going to copy this. Good morning, Gina. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining on this holiday. Part of it is to understand why these things are actually shrinking to begin with. Okay, so let me make this 70. Course. I'm just going to force the issue that way. So why is it sewing like this rather than like that? Okay, so understanding what's going on is kind of the key important thing here. When the machine is sewing from one side to the other, right? So when I'm making a stitch here and I'm pulling and I'm coming across, my needle pokes a hole, I grab the bobbin, and now my thread and machine, it's moving this way. So the thread that's coming through this hole, what's happening as my machine physically is moving along in this direction? Well, it's going to be pulling on that hole, right? So the hole is going to move this way. Okay, so it narrows up. And again, as it goes from this side, it makes this stitch, and now it's dragging this way. Well, it's going to pull that hole this way. All right, now it becomes really drastic. It moves more when the distance is long, right? So the center of the circle is going to narrow up more than up here, because when I make a stitch here to there, it's a short distance, so that hole can't really move much. Whereas when I'm going here, it's dragging and dragging and dragging, so I'm getting more and more pressure on this, so it's going to narrow more. Okay, so if you understand why it's happening, it's because it's being allowed to move as the machine goes from side to side. Okay, so how do we address that for making it so as a circle and rather than narrowing up? One is we need to make sure we're compensating for the fact that it's going to narrow, and you do that with pull compensation. Okay, so here, 3 points of offset. That makes it overstitch more, roughly 3 points along this edge in the direction it's sewing. So it's going to overstitch it, so when it shrinks, it ends up where you want it, right? So anywhere 1 to 3 points is pretty good. The next thing to think about is with puff, or even with a regular circle, if you also have a good underlay near the edge, what is that going to help do? That's going to help prevent the material and everything from being able to shift in, right? So how do we do that? Well, this is a puff design, so I can't just go underlay the daylights out of this thing and expect it to go where I want, because if we do that, then it's not going to be puff, right? It's going to be sewn down and we're going to beat it to death. All right, so I can do an edge walk along here. That's one thing I can do. And maybe that's enough, depending on what material you're sewing on. Maybe that'll work. If it's not quite enough, what can I do? Well, I know it's going to shrink more in the direction that it's sewing. So I can do an underlay to really hold that down and secure it before I get into the big stitching, which is going to do that pull, right? So these are just other techniques you can play with. And all of that is just on the edge of the puff, so it's not going to really mess up the fact that it's a puff design. And now when I go over it, it's all covered up anyway. See that? So this zigzag there is covered up. The center walk or this edge walk is all covered up. So it's holding my puff down, it's securing those edges so that when the satin stitch goes over, it's not able to shrink. Okay, so those are just different ways. You know, do you need this little edge treatment, if you will? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on what you're sewing on and how much it's able to move, what stabilizer you're using, things like that. But I would start with a good edge walk, making sure you have pull offset of some sort, some pull compensation, and then you can play with these sorts of things to kind of secure it. Okay? All right, so that's where I would start off with getting a pretty puff circle. All right, so I'm going to scroll back to the top of the questions that were typed in while we're live. Let's see. I don't know how to use DesignShop. Help me, please. Okay, no worries. So with DesignShop, you can find a ton of resources online. So if you go to the YouTube channel, let's see if I can find it without having it play videos, because that's what ends up happening. When I'm live, they'll end up playing videos, and then I get annoyed because then I have audio playing in the background. Okay, so these are the 11 videos. I don't see the 12 right off top, but the 11 videos apply for almost everything. Okay, so what I would suggest doing is starting with this one right here, this playlist, Design Shop Basics. There's also a basics playlist for 12, but I would start here. Don't play. I don't want to hear it. Okay. So this is where I would start. It goes through navigating around Design Shop, of how, you know, the layout of the screen, what areas to focus on, what the different things do, how to do lettering. You know, it will go, this is where you start. So start with the basics. From the basics, go into object properties and editing. I would probably do the basics first, then object properties, that playlist, and then editing, lettering, and then after you do those playlists, then go on to digitizing. Okay, why do I always say that? These, from starting with editing, lettering, basics, and object properties, that is working with other designs. And when you get into digitizing, it's really important to understand what the properties are doing, so that when you sew something out and you go, oh, I hate that, or I wish it looked bolder, or I wish I had more thread coverage. Well, those sorts of thoughts you learn in the object property, that, you know, more thread, more stitches, that's going to be your density. I forgot the other one that I said, but, you know, it's all of how to modify it. You really need to have a good understanding of the basics before you get into digitizing, in my opinion. So I would definitely start with the basics, and then these playlists. After that, go into the digitizing one, and that will get you working the buttons, right? And then it just comes down to practice. Okay, there are a ton of resources out on the playlists. In the manual, if you go to the Milko service site and go to the actual manual for Design Shop, you can also get to it with the question mark. In here, you'll also find links to the videos. So, for instance, right there, screen overview, that's the start of the basics playlist. Okay, so all of these, the toolbars, so you can actually kind of work your way down the manual and get to all the videos by scrolling through the manual. So that's another way to start. So that's probably where I'd say to start with, you know, getting started. Then there's always these Design Shop talks. Let's say you're working on something and you really don't understand how to proceed, you know, just put in a question and we can work on it. Okay. Rose, does it help any or give you at least a place to start? All right. How do I bring artwork off my phone or internet to the screen? Okay, so you want an email. I don't, I'm really awful at email and I don't know how to email from Facebook. So I can walk you through it here. And then from that, I'm trying to think. I can't email. I don't do private messages on Facebook. I would be swamped with them, so I just don't do it. So, but you can always email applications. All right, so getting a picture off the internet. So let me see, what can I search for? Easter egg, clip art. Whatever, I'm gonna do that. All right, so whatever art you want, right? So, yeah, this is a bad idea. 123 RF. At least this is something I actually, let's see. I don't know. What do we want to do? All right. This is why I shouldn't do stuff like this. All right. Egg. Well, let's see. Easter clip art. Oh well, I'm going to use this one. All right. So, different ways you can do it. You can copy it, copy image. So, I just right click, copy, come to Design Shop, and then Control V. And that pastes it directly in. Okay. So all I did was I went on the internet, found whatever image I wanted, right clicked on the image, copied it to my clipboard, and then paste it. Okay. Once you have that, now you're able to digitize it. Now, if you're working from your phone, someone suggested, and I do this as well. So let's say you're on your phone and you find an image. You can go and screenshot it or save it off to your pictures and then open up Facebook if you're a Facebook user and message it to yourself. So literally just do a private message to yourself, adding that image in, and it'll pop up. So once it's there, you just do the same thing I did there. You open the image, copy it, and paste it into DesignShop. And from here, now you can digitize it. Okay, so Dawn, does that help at all? If not, if you can send an email to applications at melco.com and we can see if we can get you a written out explanation better. But it's going to be the same thing. You're basically going to want to get whatever image you want into your clipboard, whether you find it on the internet, you buy the art, you open it up on your screen, whatever it might be, select it, copy it to your clipboard, and then paste it into DesignShop and you're good to go. All right. So Dawn, let me know if that doesn't help. Good morning, Sherry. Thanks for joining. Lydia says, please show the list you spoke about. Of files. Here they go. All right. So what files save color? So expanded file types, in general, not all of them will save the thread colors in them. There are some that do. Native to our machines is OFM. All right. So if you save it as an OFM and have it set up to the proper colors, the thread colors you're going to want, that is going to be your best bet for saving it in the thread colors you intend to use. Now, other ones that you can buy online will get kind of close because they save some version of color information in it. So it at least gets it in family of what the colors are. But when you fix it to whatever your specific thread colors are, you're going to want to save it as an OFM. Okay. So what thread file type save color information? Pest does, Jeff does, Huss saves color information, EMB, art files, all the art files do. I'm trying to think what other ones. I think that's it. Jeff Plus will. EXP Plus. It's not on that list, but we don't use it in our machines, but it saves color information as well. EXP Lydia does not save color information. It's a good file format, but it's very basic and it saves no color. Neither do DSTs. The ones that would be Pess, Jeff, Huss, EMB, Art. Those are the ones I would look at for having color information that's close. Okay? All right, what other questions? Any others typed in? I don't see any. Okay. All right. How do you cut a single element to make 2 or more separate elements? That one's fun. And I saw another question this week that the example I made was because of that. So let's go open one. No, I don't want that. I want my Dropbox. Where is it? Dropbox. Milko. My brain is not braining. All right, let's see. You bought an applique. That's fun. Oh, were you the one who was asking about how to split things up? The golf clubs? I know someone was asking about that. That's why I made this one. Someone asked, how do you create a split file? All right, so I'll admit the letter I picked is not ideal for this. After I did it, I decided it didn't look like an S, but here we go. All right, so this is what I did to create it. Okay, so I'm going to turn all this stuff. Oh, your applique file didn't have an SVG. How do I make one? Okay, cool. We'll do that too. That's all kind of in family with what I'm doing here. All right. So where was I? What was the actual question? Make sure. Oh, how do I split elements? Got it. All right, so what I did just to create this example is I typed in a letter. So actually, I'll just go recreate it. So how tall is this guy? He is 5. All right, so I did lettering. I picked a font. That one happens to be chunky, so I used it. Let's say I want it 5 inches tall. I typed the letter S, hit enter. Now that's just a sewn letter, and I don't want a sewn letter. I want it to be applique. So for that, I go to Properties, and this is new to DesignShop 12. So if you are using a prior version, I can show you that in a second. But you can tell this to be applique. All right, and that makes it an applique. From there, I can come, again, this is new to 12. I can go tell it to be applique. And this lets me do all the modifications of the applique settings itself, right? So from here, let's say I want an additional color change after this. So I can apply that. Let's say I also don't like how it's doing 80% on. I want it, 50-50 or 60-40 or something else. So I can modify that as well to have the split of the how it's going to applique. All right, so once you're happy with it, all right, so I created my letter, and then I decided where I wanted my line to split. So I just drew a rectangle to have some art. Okay, so from here, now I've got to split all this thing up, right? So this one did not turn on the color change. There we go. All right, so this is lettering. I can't split apart my lettering until it's down into objects. So I'm going to click on that applique letter, right click, operations, convert object to wireframe. There we go. All right. So now it's in its pieces. Okay. So from here, now this is what you actually asked. How do I split my elements apart? So this is just a walking stitch. I don't want it to be a walking stitch. I want to cut it right there and right there. So if I click that point, see this guy right here, split element at selected point. That's in both 11 and 12, by the way, and 10. So I can click on that, click on split element at selected point. Same with down here where it intersects my box. I'm clicking on those points and saying split element at selected point. Now I can delete those guys. Okay, so if I turn all this off, you'll see now I've got that drawn. Go away symbols. Let's give us more space. Okay. All right. Well, we got to do the same thing with this guy. All right. So again, I'm going to click that point, say split element at selected points, add a point there, split, click on that guy, split add a point here, split. So now I can select these two and hit delete. Okay, so let's do the same thing with this guy. Add a point here, split element. Add a point there, split element. This guy, I'm going to split that one there. Add a point there, split element. So then delete those guys. Okay, so now I have my element split. This I'm probably going to have to modify, but that's okay for now. So now I need to create this box as applique, right? So I can select the shape, and I'm going to do this the fast way. So I'm going to hold the shift key down. No, I'm going to hold the control key, excuse me. Control, click. All right, so that made it a box. So now I'm going to control C, copy, paste. Make that a bean stitch. Copy, paste. Now I'm going to hold control that and make my tackle stitch. Make it wider. And then I'm going to give it another color. And now I'm going to copy and paste that guy. Copy, paste, put it back to satin. And make that like 40. All right, so I've got it split. I've got my other applique. Notice I said I'd probably have to modify that. So I just need to zoom in on there and move my points around. So I deleted it at the wrong spot. That's okay. So I'm going to, oops, not delete the whole thing. Undo. I want to delete that point. That's better. And same with this guy down here. Zoom over so we can look at it. I'm just going to delete that point. That's better. And it looks like my zigzag has the same problem down here. So I'm going to delete that. There. So I split it up, turned it into a double applique. Okay. So Rachel, you said your applique file did not have an SVG. So what do you do about that? So right here, this box I created, that first step is essentially my applique, right? That's, oops, let me turn all this off. Go away. All off, and just that one. So for the rectangle, for instance, that's the applique step that's going to tack it down. So if I copy that by just Control C, select it, copy it, make a new file, and paste it in the new file. I always paste in center. I can then do File, Save As, and change this to be an SVG. And now it will save it as an SVG for me. So you can do that with your placement stitches. Okay, you can save them off as SVGs and then go cut it in whatever cutting software you have. For the swishes, so there's a question. All right, before I jump to the next question, let me make sure I covered all that. Okay, so yes, I showed how to split elements. I'll show you one other trick to splitting. Let's say you have a fill instead of an applique. So I'm going to draw a circle, 3D, because I want to look at it. Oh, I drew a vector, not a fill. Lovely. Let's put some stitches on it. Okay, so let's say I have this. Well, now I want to split it directly in half between that point and that point. Well, if I select both points with the control key, so there to there, I can then say split element. And it splits it. Now it's 2. Well, let's say I want to do a curved split, right? So I want making a broken chicken egg or something, okay? So I made a splice line using this button right here. So let me draw that again on the other side on this guy. So select the shape, click on insert, hold that down. There's the curved splice. Left click, you can do right clicks, whatever you want. All right. So I added some splice lines. Well, that's still not separating it. If I want to break it, I can click on one end, hold my control key, click on the other, and now say split element, and it will split it along that curve. So again, I click on one, hold my control key on the keyboard, click on the other end, and say split. Okay, so I just split this guy up into a bunch of pieces. Okay, so you can do it using the split element on line elements. If you're doing it for fill, you have to select 2 points for it to work. Okay. All right, so how do you do a swish tail design? You need to know what fonts have the swish tail. And where is it? Swoosh. Athletic Swoosh. That one does. So that one has this. Okay, I'm pointing at the screen, but you see it down there. There's the swoosh. So how do you use it? Let's see if I can remember. All right, so if I go into the properties of this guy, I can click on character list, and right there is the swoosh. I can, oops, so it's a plus sign. Put it in the wrong spot. So I'm going to add it, apply, and there's the swooshy. And I just need to move it over. Okay. So that adds your swoosh. Can you do what in a different version? All right, so Sherry, can I do what in a different version, not 12? Everything I've shown today you can do in all the versions, except where I said this is new to 12. Yeah, the split element, that exact same toolbar works the exact same way. It's the same feature in 11 and 10, 11, and 12. So split element you can do in all the versions just like that. It is level dependent though, so keep that in mind. It's what I mean by that is I'm running professional here, so it's in professional. I don't remember what versions it's included in. Frank asks, does the split element work on column, center line, and walk? So I showed it on walk. So there, I'm going to draw a walk, and here's a single line, and then here's a column. So I'm going to show it on the different ones. So on a walk and single line, it behaves the same. All you have to do is click one point and say split element, and now it will break that element. So here again, if I click on that point and then say split element at that point, then you can split it. On your single line, it's the same thing. So click on it, say split element, and now it's split. Okay. On this guy, let's add a point. I click on one side of it. So I don't have to click 2 points. I just have to click on the line I want to split it at. So that's a column 1. So let's do a column 2. So there's a column 2 with my stitch directions. So this guy, I believe you have to click 2 points for it to work. So I have to hold that button and then that control key, select that, say split element at selected points. So the column 2 behaves more like a fill, where you have to select 2 points and then click split element at selected points. Okay, so yes, and what I just did here, all these split commands are in 9, 10, 11, and 12, all the versions. Rob asks, what's the cost to go from 10 to 12? I have zero insight into cost. I'm sorry. I wish I knew, but I don't. What I would suggest is to give your salesperson a call, your account manager, and they can help you. It depends. They have different tables. Like if you are going from, let's say, sizer to professional, or if you're going from professional to professional, or lettering to professional, there's different things. Okay, so last week I had the decorative stitches showing on the bottom. How do I do that again? So this is again something that you can see in 9, 10, 11, and yeah, all of the versions. So how do you see it? Right here, see that button? It says custom shape. If you click on that, I can then come down here and under this first guy, go to decorative stitches. And now you can see visually what all the different decorative stitches are. See that? So it shows you just one segment of it. This helix one, so it shows you the one segment, but if I come up here and say decorative helix, you'll notice it shows really cool, right? So, but this is what created that. So all of these down here show you just one portion of what's going to be the repeating. Okay. And that custom shape tool again is available in 11 and 12. It's not it's there. This one has more decoratives. So some of the ones you see here are not available or not included in 11. They're new to 12. Okay. All right, so what other questions? Let me go back and make sure I didn't miss any while I was pontificating. All right, we talked about the SVG. We did the swoosh for Maxine. The split works in all of them. Costing, I don't know. Are some of these created by me? Yes. The ones that come in version 12, no. But yes, some of the ones you see down here are ones that I've made for me because I've wanted, like I did one, it's on my computer. Oh, it's on my other computer and I haven't moved it over yet. So I did a twisted wire that was way cool. But yeah, these are all decorative stitches. So it's on the computer at home. I haven't saved it over to my library, but I did, someone wanted me to make, ooh, that is not what I wanted to do. All right. There. So somebody wanted a twisted helix, like a twisted wire, but without the barbed wire. So I created a decorative that made it look like this twisted wire part that I could then do in the shape of a heart. So I did that last night. I just haven't copied it over to my library yet to move to this computer. The horsey I did, there's some leaf ones I did, like that one. There's a bunch of them in here if I stop and stare at them. Yeah, Spaghetti Monster. There's another one I did that was Scribbles. Did I put it on here yet? I think I called it Scribble Scrabble. I don't see it, but so I didn't copy it over to the library because it's a really bizarre faux chenille application. So I created a Scribble Scrabble so that when it filled an area with that decorative, it would, all the stitch directions are going different directions. So when the light hits it, it makes it look like chenille, but it's just straight sewn. So if you sew it over puff, it almost looks like a chenille, but it's not. It's just because the stitch directions are going crazy. So, yeah. The houndstooth, those are new to the 12, I believe. Although I've made them too, so maybe they're mine. I don't remember. But I thought they were in 12. All right, what other questions do we have? Any? I don't see any other ones coming in. I'll hang on for a little bit. I know it's a holiday weekend here. My kids are all at the house wondering when I'm coming home because I'm in my shop. My husband's out of town. So it's me and the kids this weekend. All right, y'all. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you guys have a good holiday. I will be back next week. Next week I'm aiming for, my schedule is so messed up. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing next week. So next week is supposed to be Friday. So I will be back next Friday. And then the week after that, I'll be back to Thursday. Thursday, Friday. Unless something else comes up. But yeah, Gina, I thought they were in 12. So, all right, you guys have a great weekend. I hope everyone had fun at the trade show. Got to see lots of new stuff. I didn't get to go this time. I'll find another one. You guys enjoy your weekends, and I will be back next Friday. All right. Have fun sewing. Talk to you then. Bye, everyone.